Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Hudson. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is I do nothing but elder law at a firm called Myrick O'Connell. But this show, of course, is not about elder law. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've been to my seminars before or seen any of my seminars recently on cable, which by the way, Hudson Cable has been kind enough to show, you know that Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And the point about this show is to help them do that right here in Hudson if they want to just stay in Hudson. And so I've got this great co-host whom everybody does know. He's John Parent, one of your wonderful selectmen. And he's usually in charge of finding great guests for us to talk about or to talk to about programs that are going on here. But today, John is our guest. Because his day job, he used to have other day jobs, but now his day job is he's a selectman, right? And he does a lot of selectman work.
Yeah.
And we know that a town meeting is coming up, and so there were a couple of warrant articles that we wanted to talk about. John was kind enough on our last show to invite some folks who were supporting the warrant article dealing with the Armory. John wanted to be on today to talk a little bit about that, but also about another warrant article that having to do with some land on Packard Street. But first, John, I know we were talking earlier, and you said you wanted to spend a little time talking about the town meeting that's coming up, and kind of what's happening with all that. I know that things are getting chilly out there. And so there are a lot of questions about trying to pull off a town meeting now before it snows, right? But can you just kind of talk about kind of the background to where you are, and then kind of what the decisions are that have been made? And can you start by just reminding people, when is it? When is the town meeting scheduled for?
Well, that's one of the big changes. It was originally scheduled for Monday, November 16th. What happened was we had a Board of Selectmen meeting last night, and the Monday meeting, or the town meeting, was a big part of the agenda. And we had several citizens who were very concerned because of COVID-19 that we might be excluding certain people who are rightfully so concerned about COVID-19 and might be in my type of position where I have both age and a precondition that makes me a little bit more to COVID-19. So
you're probably almost as old as I am, John. So you got to be careful about this stuff.
I don't know that many people who are younger than me. It's getting very, very tight. So their concern, rightfully so, is it a good idea or a bad idea to have a meeting inside, even though you're trying to be sure that you comply with the COVID-19 standards, the distancing, the masks, and the washing of hands, or using some type of sanitizer. So to get to the bottom line, we came to a determination that we are better off not having it inside, and we're going to do our very best to have a successful meeting, but have it outside. Now, the first thing that has changed is, rather than a meeting at night, which has always been the case previously, we're going to change the date from Monday the 16th to Saturday the 14th at 1 o'clock. And we felt that by having it in the afternoon, hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of some sunlight and some warmth, and not have 3 feet of snow on the ground. So all to be determined. So the meeting will be held 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Saturday the 14th, and we have a bad weather day for Sunday the 15th at 1 p.m.
And John, where's that going to be again?
That's going to be in the high school parking lot. So it will be very interesting to see how we're going to do this. I had mentioned to Arthur previously that one of our neighbor towns, Maynard, did have an outdoor town meeting, but I think it was more like June, which was a little better weather. And they have access to having a radio broadcast over the citizens' car radios. So they were able to sit in their cars and listen to the meeting over their radio. We do not have that luxury. So I also mentioned, Arthur, that I'm glad I'm not on the committee that's setting this up, because this is going to be quite a challenge. But we'll try to do our best and make it a meeting that accomplishes our goals of doing the town business.
So that'll be a real challenge. I was mentioning to you, John, I think that the high school kids or somebody should do a fundraiser with a concession and have like thermoses with hot chocolate and coffee or something. They can make a boatload of money out in that parking lot, right?
If you could walk around with a backpack filled with coffee and hot chocolate, you'd probably do very, very well.
Right, right.
For sure.
So
go ahead.
So that's the story. So at least people know, they know when it's going to be. So it's November. It's once again, it's Saturday, November the 14th. It's going to start. You're telling me at about 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
And are they getting a notice of what's going to be on that town meeting? Has that warrant already been mailed?
It has not as yet. It will be posted on the town website, I believe no less than 30 days prior to the meeting. And we will send out notifications. We have a pretty extensive mailing list of citizens who are interested in any news from Hudson, and they will be notified about the meeting at that point as well.
That's great. So John, I know that you wanted to talk about some of the warrant articles that you think kind of would maybe the more, kind of talked about or contentious. I know that, at your suggestion, we had invited on some folks, or I hosted that at the last show, just to talk about the positives in terms of this possibility of entering into an agreement regarding the acquisition of the armory. And I know that we had talked about it, inviting a guest that could also kind of express some of the views on the other side. And I know that we weren't able to find somebody. Do you, from your own discussions with folks, could you help? I think it would be helpful for folks just to get a sense of what what the issues are from the other side, right? Because I'm sure you talk about them at the Board of Selectmen.
Sure.
This is obviously a big building. It's very visible. This must have been a source of discussion for a long time, right?
For sure. Well, let me first mention that there are several steps that are involved in the acquisition of the property and actually turning it into something that is of use to the town of Hudson. Step one was we did have to notify a branch of the state government called DCAM. They're the individuals that handle all of the properties in the state of Mass, which it would include buildings like the Armory. So we did notify DCAM, the state agency, that we are interested in purchasing the building. And they have given us a price if the town purchases the building with the idea that it's going to be used as a cultural center. And that amount is $230,000. Now, that has to go through the legislature, and the legislature has to approve that agreement to purchase. But we're still a ways off from actually closing the deal. The second item is that the agreement to purchase has to be approved at town meeting. So there is a warrant article. It's actually article number 21, which is the acquisition of property, which is the Hudson Armory. That, I believe, is a 2/3 majority vote because it is real estate. So that would require a 2/3 vote of the members present at the Hudson Town meeting. And then finally, that would be step two. Step three is the individuals that you had on your program before, who have worked very hard, quite frankly, to try and make their dream and the dream of a lot of other people come true, that this building be eventually turned into a cultural center. Um, they are going to have to raise the $230,000 without the use of any town funds at all. And that was pretty much the deal that the Board of Selectmen made with the Hudson Cultural Alliance, which is the nonprofit organization that the two individuals established. So they need to get the $230,000 plus, in all likelihood, they're going to have to do what we refer to as a 21E examination, which is an examination to see if there are any types of hazardous materials that need to be removed or taken care of after the acquisition. So there may be another $20,000 or so involved. More likely, they're going to have to come up with around $250,000. Now, there is a time limit from the date that the legislation that that DCAM puts forward. There's a timeline in which you have to close. The timeline is 90 days from the date that the legislature okays the potential sale of the Armory to Hudson. So the individuals from the Cultural Alliance have that 90-day period to get the $230,000 or $250,000 in. If they can do that, the Board of Selectmen has agreed that we will close on the sale of the Armory. The town is not on the sale of the Armory until such time as we actually have the closing. Now, I have indicated in the past some of the items that I'm concerned about. And the only items really that bother me at all and that I'm concerned about is the long-term project itself. It's going to take a substantial amount of money to not only purchase it, but to maintain it and to keep the project moving forward. So my concern is if we do reach a point where it just simply becomes financially impossible to complete, what happens then? And only then. Quite frankly, I hope that the individuals that are involved are able to do this. From the day we started talking about the Armory as potential use as a cultural center, I have made two items very clear. Number one, I think it's a wonderful idea. Number two, and very important to me, is that town funds not be expended for that particular use, and that it has to be done solely by an outside group. And that's going to be a challenge. But I wish them well. I hope that it does come through. And I would just, on a cautionary side, look forward and let's make sure that we're going to be able to do this in the long run. So
and John, just one question, which was occurring to me as you were talking, because I understand that if ultimately you do the deal, even if the deal is with third-party funds, the building's coming to the town.
Correct.
And the building is not being flipped to this nonprofit. The building is staying with the town.
That's correct.
So in the short run, do you have a sense if the building were acquired by the town of what? Well, I'll return the run rate would be just to sit on the building if additional funds had not yet been raised in order to maintain it or whatever, for insurance, obviously not taxes because you're the town, but for insurance and mowing the lawn, any of the do you have a sense of what that cost would be to the town? Because that's, for taxpayers looking at this, they'd be saying, yeah, maybe this is okay, but if it does sit for a while, what's our potential exposure here?
Well, you have to, I guess, rephrase that a little bit. In the interim, the Hudson Cultural Alliance is going to pick up the ongoing maintenance costs, which my understanding is about $40,000 a year. That, of course, has absolutely nothing to do with what has to be done to the building for ADA compliance, issues like that. And they have indicated that that cost would be about $1 million. So they're going
for
to
that
have,
initial ADA compliance, just to kind of get the building so that you can
that's,
open the door and do something.
as
Right.
they put it themselves, that's to get the building open,
Right.
to start. And they're going to have to rely on grants through different organizations or perhaps even the state itself. So we've got to let them take the bull by the horn and see if what they can do by the way of grants.
That's their issue. So now I know that you wanted to spend some time, John, talking about this Packard Street project, which I had actually not heard. I had not heard about. You want to talk a little bit about that one and about what that warrant article is and what it's about?
Yeah, this is really important to me. Another committee that I serve on is the Affordable Housing Trust. And one of our charges through that committee is to try and, number one, maintain the affordable housing units that we have on the books right now. And number two, to try and increase affordable housing wherever we can. The Packard Street building that we're considering turning into an affordable housing unit is the former police station. The police station was in horrible shape. It was built in 1900. It was a school for a number of years, and then it became a police station around 1960. Very old building. It needs to be torn down. The issue that we had and what's taken so long, the building has been vacant since 2017. And we've been talking about building and affordable units on that land for almost the whole 3 years, was we had another issue involved, and that was a problem with the Hudson School Administration building, which is also in very, very poor shape. And we went back and forth as to whether it would make sense to use that land on Packard Street, tear down the building, and put up a new Hudson Administration building, and perhaps use that building for affordable housing. Financially, it just didn't work out. You're talking about at least $10 million to build the type of administration building that they would like. Now you've got the issue of spending an awful lot of money to try and convert that administration building. There are so many issues and problems with the administration building that may have to be torn down as well. So after a long period of consideration, an agreement was made with the school committee that we would no longer look at the Packard Street address for an administration building, but rather we could move forward with the idea of putting an affordable housing unit on that property. So that's where we are now. Article 20 is the conveyance of the Packard Street to the Affordable Housing Trust. Very important that people understand this is not an agreement to move forward with the affordable housing project. We have a long way to go. All this does is it makes the land much more desirable to a developer. If a developer comes in and knows that it has to go through town meeting to do anything with the property, that's a deterrent. If they come in knowing that the land and the property is in the hands of the Affordable Housing Trust, and that our main purpose is to use it for affordable housing, it simply makes it much more desirable. We have to go through, if the town approves this, which I believe would also require a 2/3 majority vote, then we go to the next step, which is sending out requests for proposals to various contractors and developers. Then we have to review the request for proposals. We have to determine where the dollars are going to come from. And this is another project where we do not want to use additional town funds for. The Housing Trust has a substantial amount of money in reserve that we can utilize. And because we would essentially be turning over the property to the developer, now they have the land for free as well. So that gives them two big items to consider doing this project. And what really drove this, and a lot of people don't realize how high some rents can be. Just because you call them affordable housing, many people would disagree as to the term affordable. For example, when you take a project like the Point apartment building in Hudson, an affordable unit, because they use 80% of the average mean income, is $1,800 a month. To many people, that's not affordable. So all of the projects that we call 40B projects, where developers come in and they agree to set aside 20 to 25% of their units as affordable housing, they set at 80% of that average. What we want to do is we want to drop that percentage so that the units become more affordable. So we're going to drop it down to 60% to see if we can help people that are on that break point where they don't make quite enough to be able to afford to live at a nice unit like the Point, but they make more than enough to have some type of subsidized housing. So the project is very important. To me, it should be very important to the town. We want to maintain, to the best of our ability, to be over 10% of affordable housing units. And right now, we're at 11.2%. So that means that a contractor cannot come in and discard, overrule some of our zoning requirements and rules. We may wind up with what we refer to as a friendly 40B, but they'll come in under our direction and essentially build the type of housing that we want. So that's where we're at on that.
So that's a big deal, and I think once again, for folks who are listening, I'm glad that you brought up the numbers involved, because for folks who own their own home and who are not faced with these rental issues, it's astonishing to them when they realize what the rentals are in the market, and it's just a function. I mean, unfortunately, it's part of your success. It's a function of the popularity of Hudson, that people really, really have wanted to live there. It's become more and more attractive. And so it's driven up rents so that even, the rent that you're talking about is a rent that a lot of folks who, especially if they only got one income, if they're living in Hudson and grew up in Hudson, just couldn't afford to pay. So to give folks an opportunity to be able to participate is great. And also to have folks know that simply moving the building to you is not committing. They're not authorizing you to build this project, because a lot of folks would agree that one of the things government hasn't done terrific is actually construct housing, right?
Right.
But that it gives you the ability to kind of look for the best deal with the town, figure out what you want, look for the best deal, so that you can get what you want. So I think that's a great summary.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people, when you say affordable housing, what they think. Do we have a problem with the?
I'm hearing things okay.
Okay.
I think we're okay.
All right. What a lot of people think affordable housing is low income housing or Section 8 housing. Low income
subsidized housing. A lot of them. Right.
Subsidized housing typically is based on your income, so you pay a percentage of your income. or Section 8, it's subsidized by the government, either the state government or the federal government. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is affordable housing. So, for example, a household size of 3 people, the area median income is $80,300. That's not low income. 4 people, it's $89,000. So that's what we're talking about. We're trying to make it a little bit more affordable so that individuals have the opportunity to live in a nice town like Hudson and enjoy our schools and all of the other amenities that we have to offer.
So John, I know I know that one of my jobs here is to be the timekeeper, and I know that we've got a few minutes left. And if I recall, there was one other project or one other thing that you had specifically wanted to talk about. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but is there another particular thing that you'd want to mention that folks may need to know about as far as town meeting or any other issue that you think is of importance?
Yeah, I'll just mention one quick, and I view this as really good news. It's Article 17, and it's the Article 16 rather. It's the curbside trash and recycling 5-year contract. We've been talking about having a town program for trash removal and recycling. And we're very, very close to entering into a contract so that the entire town can take advantage of what certainly should be a much lower outside source for picking up your trash and recyclables. We're estimating that the difference in cost could be $250 to $300 a year. I know I pay roughly $600 a year for trash removal, and we're talking about $300 to $350.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big difference. But the other really important thing is nothing else changes. You don't have to join it. If you want to keep who you have, you keep them. If you want to use the town dump, you use the town dump. So it is a purely voluntary program. Sign up or don't sign up, entirely up to you. Nothing else changes. So it's a great deal for the town.
Unless you're one of those seniors and you just can't get over the notion that you're not going to the dump.
Yeah,
because that's been a part of life for so long in Hudson, right? I remember when my cousin Bob Durand used to be campaigning. He said those were his favorite campaign days, was going to the Hudson dump. He said everybody was at the dump. So yeah. John, thank you very much for that summary. I think folks really find this helpful, that they really and I know regarding the armory, to have had some discussion on both sides when they're walking in, so they really kind of see where that is going. And the Packard Street thing is a big deal. Yeah, and of course, a way to avoid the dump, for those young people. That's a great thing. So John, everybody in Hudson likes the dump. Yeah. So John, thank you very much for doing this today. And folks, I hope you enjoy these shows. If you've got any particular suggestions regarding shows you want to see, please let us know. And we'll look forward to seeing, if I recall correctly, our next guests are going to be the folks from The Artisan. And John and I are going to be co-hosting that, so we can talk about what that's going to be looking like, because it's supposed to be opening, I think, next month.
They've made tremendous progress. It's a beautiful asset.
So tune in and you get to find out what in the world is going on there. Very good. John, thank you very much. Thank you, folks, for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Hudson. Thank you very much.